All right, let's dive into something that drives pretty much every business crazy. It's that feeling you get when you've got all this amazing state-of-the-art cloud software, but none of it seems to talk to each other. They just won't play nice. So today we're going to figure out exactly why that is.
I mean, think about it. You've got your CRM, your booking software, your accounting tools. All of them are supposed to make your life easier, right? But instead of having this one seamless, beautiful machine, you're stuck manually copying and pasting data, fixing weird errors, and just dealing with clunky workarounds. So what is going on?
Well, the simple answer is this. Your apps are basically living in their own little digital bubbles. They're in silos. And yeah, a lot of them might have something called an open API, which is kind of like an open door. But just because the door is unlocked doesn't mean anyone's actually built a hallway to connect the rooms. And that's why the dream of a connected cloud so often feels like a dead end.
Okay, so right about now you might be thinking, hang on, there are tools for this, aren't there? And you're right, there are. But here's the catch. The options we have today have created what the source material for this explainer calls an integration crisis. It forces businesses into a really, really tough spot.
It puts you in this impossible position. On one side, you've got your do-it-yourself tools. They're affordable. Sure, and they're great for simple little tasks, if this, then that, but they're shallow. The second you need to do something with any real business logic, they just fall apart, and they can be pretty risky for your data. Then on the other extreme, you have these massive, beastly enterprise platforms. They're unbelievably powerful, but they cost a fortune, and you basically need a whole team of specialists just to keep them running. This leaves most businesses totally stuck right in the middle.
And this is the heart of the problem. This is what the source calls the deep integration gap. It's not a small crack, it's a huge chasm. And it's right where most businesses are living. They need way more power than the simple DIY tools can offer, but they just can't afford the cost or the headache of those giant enterprise solutions. They're essentially stranded.
And here's why this is such a big deal right now. Your customers' expectations have totally changed. You can't just throw an API at your users anymore and say, hey, you figure it out. That's not going to fly. Modern businesses depend on these connections for their core, day-to-day work, and a flimsy, homemade integration just doesn't cut it.
So if the old ways are broken, what's the answer? Well, the good news is there's a new way of thinking about this, a market-driven approach that's designed specifically to bridge that big integration gap.
What if you didn't have to make that awful choice between cheap and weak, or powerful and crazy expensive? What if there was a third option that actually gave you the best of both worlds?
That third way is what's called an API app. And the most important word there is app, because this isn't treated like a one-off project, it's treated like a product. It's not some fragile, custom-coded connection. No, it's a standardized, ready-to-go piece of software that's built from the ground up to provide a deep, smart integration that solves one very specific business problem.
According to the research, a real API app is built on 4 key pillars. First, it has to be turnkey, meaning it just works right out of the box with minimal fuss. Second, it needs deep, configurable logic. It's got to be smart enough to handle the messy, real-world stuff, but flexible enough for you to tweak. Third, it has to be built for scale. You can't build one for every customer. You build it once and deploy it for hundreds or thousands. And finally, and this one is huge, it's got to be monetizable. This isn't just a feature. It's a real product you can actually sell.
The best way to think about them is with this quote from the source material itself. They're described as mini SaaS products, and that really just hits the nail on the head. They're not just the plumbing behind the scenes, they are highly focused tools designed to solve a very specific business pain point with surgical precision.
Now that all sounds fantastic in theory, but the real question is, does this actually work in the wild? Well, the company behind this research, Appiant, decided to go find out by actually building them.
And the results? They were pretty staggering. It all starts with this one number, less than 1%. That is the churn rate for Appiant's API apps. Just let that sink in for a second. Once a business gets one of these deep, reliable integrations set up, they do not let it go. It becomes absolutely essential. It's incredibly sticky.
And this wasn't just a one-time lucky shot. To prove that the model could be repeated, they built and launched 17 different API apps. They partnered up with major software companies in completely different industries. We're talking Mindbody in the wellness world, Clinico and healthcare, even DonorPerfect for nonprofits. And for each one, they solved a unique and deep integration challenge.
And through that whole process, they basically uncovered a powerful new business model. They learned that customers will happily pay more for a solution that's turnkey and just works. And that, in turn, makes the integration itself a really powerful, low-cost way to get new customers. It creates this amazing, scalable, product-led growth engine that generates some serious recurring revenue. I mean, some of their clients are paying well into 6 figures a year for just a single vital integration.
Okay, let's make this really concrete with an example. Imagine a yoga studio using Mindbody for all their bookings and ActiveCampaign for their marketing emails. A client gets really excited and books 10 classes at once. A shallow DIY integration? It chokes. It just can't handle a bulk update like that. So the next appointment field in the email system gets all messed up. And the result? Automated reminders go out for the wrong classes, which just annoys the clients. But with a deep integration, an API app, it processes all that data in real time, instantly. Everything stays perfectly in sync, and the studio can send out reliable, helpful messages that their clients actually love.
So, API apps solve today's big integration crisis by building these solid, reliable bridges for data. But what comes next? Where are we headed? Well, the source material suggests that once you've built these strong bridges, the next big evolution isn't just about moving data around. It's about empowering the bridge itself to take intelligent action. And this is where we start talking about the future, AI agents.
And this is a really key shift in thinking. The goal isn't just to make sure data gets from point A to point B anymore. The new goal, the new frontier, is to empower the connection itself to autonomously do things.
Here's the easiest way to see the difference. Traditional automation is static. It's totally rigid. It follows a pre-written script. If this happens, then do that. And if you need to change the workflow, a human has to go in and manually reprogram it. AI agents, on the other hand, are dynamic. They're proactive. They can actually analyze a situation, make a decision based on the context, and adapt what they're doing on the fly without a human ever having to step in.
So an AI agent is basically a proactive little worker that uses these deep API connections to autonomously get tasks done. It doesn't just grab information for you, it actually acts on your behalf. So for example, it might see that your inventory is getting low, analyze your recent sales trends, and then just go ahead and automatically place a restock order for you, all on its own.
And this really brings us to our final thought for today. The next time you're getting frustrated that two of your most important business tools won't talk to each other, just stop and think. Don't just see it as a problem. Try to see it as an opportunity. Because that gap, that friction that's driving you crazy, it might just be the next big business idea waiting to be built. A deep integration waiting to be turned into an API app. So let me leave you with this question. What gap in your workflow is really an opportunity in disguise?